Now I've got one more story because it's along this line. While you've got violence ratcheting up against ICE and against federal agents, while you've got the left, the Democrat Party going hard left and ultra violent, intertwined in all that are groups, terrorist groups like Antifa, like Tren de Aragua, like MS-13, like BLM, and all these other places. And now you've got a focus by this administration on all completely dismantling these organizations from not only from the ground up, but from the top down. Check this out, because this story, I think, will make you really happy. We have got a real focus now on especially Antifa as a terrorist organization, and what the administration is doing about it is fantastic.
Well, let's talk about for a moment the arrest made at Prairieland. Okay, this is the ICE facility at Prairieland, Texas, which I guess is outside of Dallas. Allegedly, 2 Antifa people have been arrested, maybe more. Can you tell us a little more about that?
This is breaking news, Larry. Just hours ago, a grand jury indicted 2 members of an Antifa-affiliated cell that launched an attack on a detention facility, attacking law enforcement and police officers. 20 individuals have been charged so far, but the key here is, for the first time, under the president's authorities, designated Antifa as a domestic terror organization. We have charged these 2 individuals with material support to terrorism for their involvement in Antifa. This was a coordinated, planned attack by dozens of individuals to murder police officers. And Larry, a police officer was actually shot in the neck. These guys came and staged a scene at a detention center using fireworks, then brought in long guns and rifles. They were kitted out in bulletproof vests and masks and opened fire at law enforcement. This is what President Trump is prioritizing. We have to protect the men and women of law enforcement. And yes, Antifa exists. It's a terrorist organization. These are the first charges ever brought under this new designation. And this FBI is following the money, and we're going to dismantle these networks because people pay for this stuff. We're going to find them. They are equally criminally responsible as those that pull the trigger themselves.
100%. Antifa is a terrorist organization. Muslim Brotherhood, BLM, they are all, now BLM is an aider and abetter of terrorist organization, but Antifa absolutely is a terrorist organization. And for the first time, we have got charges filed now against Antifa members on terrorism charges for terrorist acts. But if you listen to the globalist propaganda, mainstream, ridiculous media, there is no such thing as Antifa. Antifa doesn't exist. We can't possibly do this because Antifa is something else. You've got to check out this collage. Shout out to Dr. Steve Turley where I found this. But this is what the left-wing media thinks. This is the talking points they've been given. They are out there actively protecting Antifa and other terrorist organizations. They did the same thing with Tren de Aragua and MS-13. Check this out.
There's no Antifa. This is an entirely imaginary organization. There is not an Antifa.
Like, I don't even know what Antifa is. There is no group.
It's not even like far-right groups like the Proud Boys and Oath Keepers. Compared to right-wing extremists, Antifa-linked violence is rare and limited.
It isn't an organization. It is a in many ways mythology.
It's not like the Proud Boys or the Oath Keepers, sort of defined terrorist organizations with leadership that leads violence.
It's not a highly organized movement. It's a moniker. It's not a unified group like the Proud Boys are.
Things like Antifa are things that are thought up.
It's all in this guise of going after Antifa, which is nothing. There's no organization called Antifa.
Nobody's a member of Antifa because it doesn't exist. They are just declaring into existence something that doesn't exist.
There is no Antifa organization, so maybe that's good for social media. But it really is non-existent.
They exist on the internet in chat rooms and in 4chan and Discord and places like that where they...
Wrong. Antifa has been an organization for a long time. Antifa is a terrorist organization that has operated out of Europe for decades. And, it's so ridiculously stupid. These people are here telling a pre-recorded lie. I mean, you've got simple memes like this. Check, if you want to know who Antifa is, here you go. Here's one example. If you want to know who Antifa is as an organization, simply go look up their activities in Europe over the last 30 years. They absolutely know who Antifa is, but they are going to protect them forever because the left-wing propaganda media does not represent America. It doesn't represent American citizens or American workers. It represents the globalist cabal of corruptocrats who want to destroy America and the West in order to usher in a new globalist aristocracy where they will be forever in power based on who they were born to, so that their children and their lineage will forever be rich and powerful, and everybody else will essentially be a glorified serf. Now, fortunately, we have an administration, we have a president, we have an FBI director who are not going to let that happen. Check this out again from Kash Patel and others. This is great stuff. This warms my heart to know that they are actually actively going after this stuff. Now, all we need to see are more results. Check this out.
Nonprofit money, and maybe to some of those foreign enemies, some of those people you just mentioned in Iran and Venezuela and Russia. What are we learning, and what can you tell us about this threat?
So look, the thing I can tell you is that money doesn't lie. And the thing we're doing at the FBI is following the money. And thanks to President Trump, we now have Antifa designated, rightfully so, as a domestic terror organization. And we have had multiple investigations going on, not just in Portland, where we are mapping out the money and we are using social media and the influencers that the president had here just this last week, because they're the ones on the ground getting us ground level intelligence, because law enforcement isn't able to enter these spaces and these people are brave enough to do it. So we already have dozens of arrests of these individuals involved. But what we want to do is, as you pointed out, is someone is paying for this. These are organized acts of violence, fully funded by people who don't even live necessarily in these communities, showing up in dozens with the same placards, the same helmets, the same riot gear. Someone's paying for it, and we're on the verge of finding that out thanks to these new authorities.
Wow.
Yeah. That is absolutely fantastic. Now, to that end, I got one more video, but before that, I want to dive into this story because this helps set up the video, and that is the fact that they are already starting to get, maybe not to the bottom, but they are already starting to unravel the tangled weave of money and funders that are going into Antifa and other terrorist organizations. Report. This is from the Center Square. Soros Foundation gave $80 million to groups tied to extremist violence. So here you got a new report from Capital Research shows how billionaires George Soros's Open Society gave more than $80 million to groups tied to terrorism and extreme violence, $23 million to 7 groups that directly assist domestic terrorism criminality. The report, which was authored by Ryan Morrow, details the nexus between domestic terror activities and support for international terrorism, specifically Hamas, in addition to other communist sympathizers. Open Society has sent millions of dollars into U.S.-based organizations that engage in direct actions that the FBI defines as domestic terrorism. They include the Center for Third World Organizing. It's built in part in Ruckus Society, which trained activists in property destruction and sabotage during the 2020 riots. The Sunrise Movement, which endorsed Antifa-linked Stop Cop City campaign, and other 40 domestic, which currently face 40 domestic terrorism and 60 racketeering indictments. The Sunrise Movement received at least $2 million from Open Society. So all of this is just the tip of the iceberg of the groups, the NGOs, the terrorist organizations that have received money from places like the Open Society Foundation, which, guess what, is just another in the long daisy chain of NGOs, which used to get funded by money laundered out of USAID, out of the Department of Education, even out of the Pentagon. And that is where DOGE and the Trump administration are cracking down on all this money, all this US taxpayer money that was literally going to destroy America. It was going into NGOs, which sent it to other NGOs, which then sent it back to places like the Open Society Foundation, which then went to terrorist organizations actively trying to destroy the United States. Now, check this out, because this will make you hopefully feel good, give you some hope that we are actually making some progress on all these fronts. This was a meeting shared by Anna Paulina Luna. Check this out.
That this is not just a story about violence and chaos, as you alluded to, Mr. President. This is a money story, And at the Government Accountability Institute, my colleague and I, Peter Schweitzer and our team, we followed the money, and we followed it to the top of what we call the protest industrial complex, Riot Inc. And we found a network of NGOs.
Riot Inc., which was essentially, they started investigating what happened during the 2020 riots and onward from there, and even dating back but this is where all this started. And then they started looking at Antifa. They started looking at what they call Riot Inc. and where this money came from, where this money fomenting anti-American domestic terrorism came from.
It's not just the Soros network, the Open Society network, it's other funding networks, the Arabella funding network, the Tides funding network, Neville Roy Singham and his network, Foreign Cash. And it's also big left-wing funders. Some of them are not citizens of this country. Mr. Hans-Jörg Wyss of Switzerland. They're pouring money into this entire ecosystem. And so I want to share 3 money facts with you about what we call Riot Inc. Number one, like any corporation, Riot Inc. has many divisions. It doesn't just have the Antifa boots on the ground division. It has PR divisions. It has marketing divisions. It has a very well-funded legal division to get these boots on the ground back on the streets as quickly as possible. But it does have those investors that I mentioned. Number 2, we have identified dozens of radical organizations, not just the decentralized Antifa organizations, but dozens of radical organizations that have received more than $100 million from the Riot Inc. investors. These would be the lawyer groups. These would be the groups that advocate for calling good, honest Americans fascists, etc. And then 3, I think the most shocking thing is that we have found that more than $100 million in U.S. taxpayer funding has flowed into these funding networks.
Exactly. They're being funded by our own tax dollars, which flowed out of USAID into a daisy chain of NGOs and back into terrorist organizations committing domestic terror on U.S. soil.
Including at least $4 million to these very groups themselves, not just Antifa types, but there was an event in Atlanta called Stop Cop City. Over 60 rioters were charged with domestic terrorism. These groups received money for that from both the billionaire class as well as taxpayer money. So one other thing, this money helps fund the decentralized crowdfunding platforms. These are ways that Antifa, the John Brown Gun Club of Elm Fork, which had links to that attack on the ICE facility, the Socialist Rifle Association, and just because they don't have LLCs or EIN numbers doesn't mean they can't get paid. Some of these funding platforms, crowdfunding platforms, are funded by this network that we call Riot Inc. So, again, I want to thank you for your...
So, all of these crowdfunding, all these things need to be shut down. If they are funding terrorism, shut them down. If they are NGOs operated by U.S. citizens in the United States, shut them down, and then prosecute the individuals involved. They're American citizens. They get their day in court. They get their due process, but they should be prosecuted like the 2 people in Texas under terrorism statutes. Not, they gave money. They aided and abetted a terrorist organization or terrorist organizations. They should be prosecuted under terrorism statutes under Homeland Security. Now, for those NGOs that are external to the United States, that are not staffed by American citizens. For the Hans-Jörg Wyss, they talked about a Swiss citizen that is funding terrorism in the United States. They are foreign actors. They are not American citizens. They should be treated as foreign enemy combatants. And they should be we should wage war on them. Just like the Abdul Bakaris of the world, we should either rendition these people or take them out entirely. If they are foreign enemy combatants contributing, giving money to terrorist organizations in America that result in destruction of property or death in America, they should be treated as foreign enemy combatants, and any and all measures available to the United States should be taken against them, just like we did to Soleimani or Bakari or any of the other terrorist individuals, Iranians, Afghans, Pakistanis, just like Osama bin Laden. We went and found him in his house in Afghanistan and took him out. The same thing should happen to these all foreign organizations or individuals that are funding terrorism in the United States. The exact same. It should send a message to everyone involved that you're not going to mess with us like this anymore. This is ridiculous. Let me know what you think in the comments. Really appreciate you rolling up. James Shoup, thanks so much for that comment. Thank you so much. Hey, if you like this content, please subscribe to the channel. Smash that like button. Let us know you're here in the comments. And please share Courageous Media with everybody that you know. Also, if you're so willing, if you would like, please support the channel. Join us as a member of the Courageous Army on YouTube. Thanks so much for being here. Remember, God is good and he is sovereign. It'll all be good in the end. Until I catch you next time.